Have you ever felt like you were running as fast as you could on a treadmill, only to realize that you haven't actually moved an inch? This is the reality for millions of hardworking individuals who follow the traditional rules of money, only to find themselves trapped in a cycle of debt, taxes, and endless labor. We are often told that the path to success is paved with good grades, a prestigious degree, and a secure job at a large corporation. But if this were the ultimate formula for wealth, why are so many highly educated professionals living paycheck to paycheck? Why do the most brilliant minds often struggle with their personal finances, while others, who may have struggled in a traditional classroom, seem to command vast empires of wealth? The truth is that our modern educational system was designed to produce employees, not employers. It teaches us how to work for money, but it almost never teaches us how to make money work for us. This fundamental gap in our knowledge is what keeps the rat race spinning. In the pages that follow, we are going to tear down the walls of traditional financial thinking and rebuild your understanding of wealth from the ground up. You will learn the hidden rules of the rich, the strategies they use to minimize taxes, protect their assets, and invent money where others see only obstacles. This journey isn't just about balance sheets and bank accounts. It is about a radical shift in perspective. We will explore the psychological barriers that keep people poor, such as fear and the desire for social approval, and replace them with the courage and financial intelligence required to achieve true independence. Whether you are just starting your career or looking to pivot later in life, the insights shared here will provide you with a roadmap to escape the grind. You are about to discover that financial freedom is not a matter of luck or inheritance. It is a skill that can be learned, practiced, and mastered. Prepare to challenge everything you thought you knew about money. This book serves as a comprehensive guide to navigating the complex and often misunderstood world of personal finance. At its core, the text explores the divergent philosophies of two father figures, one who followed the traditional path of academic excellence and job security, and another who mastered the art of building assets and leveraging the legal system. Through these contrasting viewpoints, we will examine why the rich continue to get richer, while the middle class struggles under the weight of tax burdens and consumer debt. The central themes of this exploration include the distinction between working for an income and owning assets that generate cash flow, the vital importance of financial literacy in an era of disappearing pensions, and the strategic use of corporations to protect wealth. We will also delve into the three essential steps for building a financial foundation: honest self-assessment, clear goal setting, and the continuous pursuit of specialized knowledge. Readers should expect a blend of narrative storytelling and practical, actionable advice. We will move from the childhood lessons of a young entrepreneur in the 1950s to modern-day investment strategies involving stocks, bonds, and real estate. By the end of this book, you will have a clear understanding of how to audit your own financial life, recognize opportunities that others miss, and cultivate the chutzpah necessary to take calculated risks. This is not a get-rich-quick scheme. It is a curriculum for a real-world financial education that the school system failed to provide. To understand the true nature of wealth, we must go back to the beginning, specifically to the 1950s, where a 9-year-old Robert Kiyosaki and his best friend Mike found themselves grappling with a question most adults are too afraid to ask: how do we get rich? These were two ambitious boys who didn't just want to have money. They wanted to understand the mechanism behind it. Their first attempt at making money was literal and, quite frankly, illegal. They tried to manufacture their own coins by melting down lead toothpaste tubes. While their amateur minting operation was quickly shut down, the curiosity that sparked it remained. Seeking legitimate guidance, Robert turned to his own father, a man of high intelligence, impressive academic credentials, and a stable career in education. This poor dad gave the advice that most of us have heard 1,000 times: go to school, get good grades, and find a secure job. On the surface, this seems like sound wisdom. However, as Robert would eventually learn, this advice is a blueprint for the rat race. When you work for a paycheck, You are essentially trading your most precious asset, time, for a fixed amount of currency. The problem is that as your pay increases, so do your taxes, your bills, and your boss's expectations. You are working for everyone else. The government takes their cut first, the bank takes the mortgage payment next, and the company keeps the lion's share of the value you produce. Contrast this with the advice of Mike's father, the rich dad. Rich Dad wasn't a man of many degrees, but he was a master of money. He agreed to mentor the boys, but he didn't do it in a classroom. He did it through a grueling, real-world experiment. He offered Robert a job at one of his convenience stores, paying a measly 10 cents an hour. For a 9-year-old, this was a pittance even in the 1950s. After a few weeks of dusting cans and performing menial labor for almost no reward, Robert was seething. He felt exploited and cheated. He went to Rich Dad ready to quit, accusing him of being a greedy boss who hadn't taught him a single thing about money. Rich Dad met Robert's anger with a calm, knowing smile. This was the first lesson. Life doesn't always give you a lecture. Often, it just pushes you around. Robert had learned what it felt like to work hard for a paycheck and still feel empty and broke. Rich Dad explained that most people spend their lives being pushed around by two primary emotions, fear and greed. Fear of not having enough money keeps them working at a job they hate, and greed, or desire, makes them spend their hard-earned money on bigger houses and faster cars, which only increases their fear of losing their income. The fundamental realization Robert reached was that rich people don't work for money in the way the middle class does. Instead, they have their money work for them. When you work for a paycheck, your income is tied to your physical presence and effort. When you own assets, your income is decoupled from your time. This is the difference between being an employee and being an owner. Most people are so afraid of social disapproval or the uncertainty of not having a steady paycheck that they never even look for other ways to generate income. They stay in the rat race, running faster and faster just to stay in the same place. Rich Dad's lesson was a harsh one, but it was necessary. By working for 10 cents an hour, and eventually for nothing at all, Robert was forced to stop looking at his job as his source of wealth. He had to start using his brain to find opportunities to create money. If you want to be wealthy, you must break the psychological addiction to the paycheck. You must realize that a good job is often a short-term solution to a long-term problem. The rich understand that wealth is built by acquiring assets that put money in your pocket regardless of whether you show up to an office or not. This shift from earned income to passive income is the first and most important step on the path to financial independence. Growing up, many of us were captivated by the legend of Robin Hood. We cheered for the hero who lived in Sherwood Forest, stealing from the wealthy and redistributing that gold to the downtrodden and the poor. It is a romantic story that appeals to our sense of fairness. However, Robert's rich dad saw the story of Robin Hood through a much more cynical lens. To him, Robin Hood wasn't a hero. He was the inspiration for a tax system that ultimately punishes the very people it was supposed to help. The common belief is that taxes are a way to soak the rich and provide for the needy. But if you look at the actual flow of money in modern society, the rich are rarely the ones bearing the heaviest burden. Instead, it is the middle class, the educated professionals, the managers, and the small business owners who pay the lion's share. Why? Because the rich are equipped with the knowledge and the resources to navigate the legal and tax systems in ways the average person cannot. One of the most powerful tools in the arsenal of the wealthy is the corporation. To the average person, a corporation might seem like a cold, faceless entity or a massive skyscraper. In reality, a corporation is simply a legal document, a folder that creates a separate legal entity. This entity enjoys rights and privileges that individuals do not. The most significant of these is the way the corporation is taxed. Consider the life of a standard employee. They earn money, the government takes taxes out of their paycheck immediately, withholding, and then the employee tries to live on what is left. They are taxed on their gross income. Now consider the owner of a corporation. The corporation earns money, it spends as much as it can on legitimate business expenses, travel, equipment, insurance, even certain meals, and then it is only taxed on whatever is left over. This is a massive structural advantage. The rich earn, spend, and then pay taxes on the remainder. The poor and middle class earn, pay taxes, and then try to spend on what remains. Beyond the tax benefits, corporations provide a vital layer of protection known as limited liability. If you, as an individual, get into a car accident or fail to pay a personal debt, your personal assets, your home, your savings, your car, are all at risk. However, if a corporation runs into legal trouble or goes bankrupt, the owners are generally protected. Their personal wealth is shielded from the failures of the business. This allows the rich to take significant financial risks without the fear of total personal ruin. Rich Dad taught Robert that the Robin Hood taxes were actually fueled by the middle class's resentment of the wealthy. But because the rich have the financial IQ to hire the best accountants and lawyers, the government eventually had to look elsewhere for revenue. They found it in the middle class. By understanding the tax code and the legal system, the rich stay one step ahead of the systems designed to rein them in. To achieve wealth, you must move beyond the employee mindset and start thinking like a business owner. This doesn't necessarily mean you have to quit your job tomorrow, but it does mean you need to understand how to use legal structures to protect your income. Whether it's through a corporation, a partnership, or a trust, the goal is to minimize the amount of money that leaks out of your pocket through taxes and legal liabilities. Knowledge of the law is not just for lawyers. It is a fundamental pillar of financial intelligence. If you don't know the rules of the game, you will always be at a disadvantage to those who do. When Robert and Mike were young, they had a unique advantage. They were receiving a dual education. During the day, they attended a traditional school where they were taught the standard curriculum of math, science, and history. In the afternoons and weekends, they sat in on Rich Dad's business meetings. They watched him interact with bankers, attorneys, accountants, and real estate brokers. They saw the behind-the-scenes mechanics of how a business actually operates. This dual education created a profound sense of cognitive dissonance for the boys. In school, they were told that the key to a successful life was to study hard and get a high-paying job. But in Rich Dad's office, they saw that the people with the highest academic credentials, the lawyers and accountants, were actually working for the man who had dropped out of school early. They realized that the skills required to be a good student were almost entirely different from the skills required to be financially free. The modern school system is remarkably efficient at teaching people how to follow instructions and perform specialized tasks. We need doctors, engineers, and teachers, and our schools do a great job of training them. However, schools are almost entirely silent on the subject of money management. Students graduate with the ability to solve complex equations or write literary critiques, but they have no idea how to manage a credit card, how compound interest works against them in debt, or how to evaluate a stock. This lack of financial training is a crisis that extends far beyond childhood. We see it in highly educated adults who make six-figure salaries but have zero net worth because they spend everything they earn. We see it in the staggering statistics regarding retirement. In the United States, roughly 50% of the workforce has no pension plan at all. Of those who do have some form of retirement savings, a shocking 75 to 80% have plans that are woefully inadequate to sustain them in their later years. People are taught to work for money, but they are never taught how to make money work for them. As a result, they become slaves to their paychecks. They are terrified of losing their jobs because they have no financial cushion and no understanding of how to generate income outside of their employment. They are financially illiterate, meaning they cannot read a financial statement or understand the difference between an asset, something that puts money in your pocket, and a liability, something that takes money out of your pocket. Rich Dad emphasized that the only way to escape this trap is to take your financial education into your own hands. You cannot rely on the government or your employer to take care of you. The days of the gold watch and a guaranteed pension for 40 years of service are long gone. In the modern economy, you are the CEO of your own life. You must learn the language of money, accounting, investing, markets, and the law. Financial literacy is the foundation of wealth. Without it, even if you win the lottery or inherit a fortune, the money will eventually slip through your fingers because you don't have the mental containers to hold on to it. To be truly successful, you must commit to being a lifelong student of finance. Read books, attend seminars, and find mentors who have achieved the results you want. The most important investment you will ever make is not in a stock or a piece of real estate. It is in your own mind. The journey toward financial independence can feel overwhelming, especially if you are starting from a place of debt or limited income. However, Rich Dad broke the process down into 3 manageable steps that anyone can follow, regardless of their age or current circumstances. While it is certainly easier to start at 20 than at 50, the principles remain the same. The key is to start now. The first step is a brutal, honest assessment of your current financial situation. Most people live in a state of financial denial. They don't want to look at their bank statements or calculate their total debt because it's too painful. But you cannot reach a destination if you don't know your starting point. You must look at your income and your expenses with total clarity. What is your actual take-home pay? What are your fixed costs? Where is your money leaking? If you are eyeing a luxury item, like a new Mercedes, you must be honest about whether you can truly afford it or if you are just trying to look rich while staying poor. Remember, do not count money you don't have and do not rely on potential future earnings to justify current spending. The second step is to set realistic, clearly defined financial goals. Wealth is not a vague feeling. It is a set of numbers. What do you want your life to look like in 5 years? In 10 years? Robert's wife, Kim, provides a perfect example of this disciplined approach. She wanted a Mercedes, but instead of buying it on credit or using their primary income, she set a goal to buy it using only the cash flow from their apartment buildings. She waited 4 years, focusing on building her asset base first. When the apartment buildings finally generated enough extra profit, she bought the car. The car was a reward from her assets, not a drain on her income. This is how the rich buy luxuries. They make their assets pay for them. The third and final step is to build the financial intelligence necessary to reach those goals. This is a continuous process of learning and growth. Rich Dad often suggested that if you are afraid of a particular area, such as sales or rejection, you should lean into it. He recommended working for a network marketing company not for the salary, but for the training. These companies often provide world-class education in sales, communication, and overcoming the fear of no. These are soft skills that are incredibly valuable in the world of business and investing. Beyond sales skills, you must also invest time in formal financial education. This means enrolling in finance classes, attending real estate seminars, and reading books on tax strategies and market trends. You should also seek to network with experts. Surround yourself with people who are smarter than you in the areas where you want to grow. If you want to invest in real estate, take a local developer to lunch. If you want to understand the stock market, join an investment club. By following these 3 steps, assessment, goal setting, and education, you are building a solid foundation. You are moving from a reactive state worrying about bills to a proactive state building a future. It takes time and it requires discipline, but the result is a life where you are in control of your money, rather than your money being in control of you. One day, you will be able to park that Mercedes in your garage, knowing that it was paid for by the money machines you built. In the hallowed halls of academia, we are taught that the smartest people, those with the highest IQs and the best test scores, are destined for the greatest success. But once you step out into the real world, you quickly realize that this isn't always the case. In fact, we all know people who were straight-A students but are now struggling to make ends meet, while the class clown or the C student is running a multi-million-dollar company. Why does this happen? The answer lies in a quality that schools don't grade: courage, or, as Rich Dad called it, chutzpah. Financial intelligence is certainly about knowing the numbers, but it is also about having the daring to act on those numbers. In the real world, it is often not the most intelligent who get ahead, but the most audacious. The rich have a unique ability to invent money, and that invention requires a combination of knowledge and guts. Most people are paralyzed by fear. They are afraid of losing money, afraid of being judged by their neighbors, and afraid of failing. This fear is what keeps them tethered to the rat race. They see a great investment opportunity, but instead of acting, they spend weeks analyzing it until the opportunity is gone. Or worse, they listen to the naysayers who tell them why it won't work. Their fear of losing is greater than their excitement about winning. Rich Dad taught Robert and Mike that success takes guts, not just hard work. If you want to change your financial state, you must change your attitude toward risk. This doesn't mean being reckless. It means being financially brave. It means having the intelligence to spot a deal and the courage to pull the trigger when everyone else is hesitating. This is what it means to invent money. To the outsider, it looks like the rich are just lucky. They seem to be in the right place at the right time. But in reality, they have trained their minds to see opportunities that others miss, and they have trained their hearts to handle the pressure of taking a risk. Think about the concept of luck for a moment. Is it luck when a professional athlete makes a game-winning shot? No, it is the result of thousands of hours of practice combined with the courage to take the shot when the game is on the line. The same is true in finance. When you combine financial knowledge with the audacity to act, you create your own luck. You become someone who can walk into a bad economy and find a way to thrive. The fear of rejection is another major hurdle. Many people never start a business or ask for a better deal because they can't stand the thought of being told no. But the rich know that no is just the starting point of a negotiation. They have developed the resilience to handle setbacks and the persistence to keep going when things get tough. If you want to be wealthy, you must be willing to be wrong and rejected on your way to being right and rich. You must value your own financial freedom more than the approval of people who are also stuck in the rat race. Courage is the fuel that turns financial knowledge into actual wealth. For generations, the safe, financial advice has been to put your money in a savings account and let it sit. In the past, when interest rates were high and inflation was low, this might have been a viable strategy for preserving wealth. But in today's world, playing it safe is one of the riskiest things you can do. When you leave your money in a standard checking or savings account, you are essentially losing money every day as inflation eats away at your purchasing power. To build real wealth, you must learn to move your money out of the safe zone and into vehicles that have the potential for significant growth. This means embracing the world of stocks, bonds, and real estate. While these investments are undeniably more volatile than a bank account, they are the engines of wealth creation. Let's look at the numbers. In 2013, the average interest rate for a savings account in America was a dismal 0.21%. At that rate, your money would take centuries to double. Compare that to tax-lien certificates, an investment where you pay someone else's delinquent property taxes in exchange for the right to collect interest. These certificates can offer returns ranging from 8% to 30%. The difference in the long-term growth of your wealth between 0.21% and 10% is the difference between a life of struggle and a life of abundance. Of course, with higher potential returns comes higher risk. If you invest in a single stock, there is a chance the company could go bankrupt and you could lose your entire investment. This is why financial education is so important. It allows you to manage and mitigate that risk. The rich don't just gamble on stocks. They study the markets, they diversify their holdings, and they understand the underlying value of what they are buying. They know that the biggest risk is not taking any risk at all. Real estate is another classic vehicle for wealth. Not only does property generally appreciate over time, but it also provides a unique set of tax advantages and the ability to use leverage, using the bank's money to buy an asset. By purchasing a rental property, you are creating a money machine that pays you every month. Even if the market fluctuates, as long as the rent covers the mortgage and expenses, you are building equity and generating cash flow. The lesson from Rich Dad is clear. Stop being balanced and start being strategic. Most people try to be balanced by putting a little money here and a little money there, hoping nothing bad happens. The rich are focused. They find an area they understand, whether it's tech stocks, small-cap companies, or multifamily housing, and they dive deep. They accept that there will be losses along the way, but they know that one big win can make up for a dozen small mistakes. If you are afraid of the stock market, start small. Buy a few shares of a company you use and understand. If you are interested in real estate, start by attending local auctions or looking at foreclosures. The goal is to get your money out of the parking lot of a savings account and into the traffic of the markets. Wealth is a game of movement and growth. By learning to handle risk and seek out high-yield investments, you are following in the footsteps of those who have mastered the art of money. As we conclude this exploration of financial intelligence, it is important to remember that the most valuable asset you will ever own is the 6 inches between your ears. The journey from the rat race to financial freedom is not paved with gold, but with knowledge, discipline, and a willingness to see the world differently. We have seen how the traditional path of study hard and get a job is often a trap that leads to a lifetime of working for others. We have explored how the rich use corporations and legal structures to protect their wealth, and why a real-world financial education is the only true security in an uncertain economy. The practical takeaways are simple but profound. Start by auditing your own life. Set clear goals that excite you and never stop learning. Don't be afraid to take risks, but ensure those risks are backed by a solid understanding of the numbers. Remember the story of Kim's Mercedes. Let your assets buy your luxuries. Instead of asking, "Can I afford this?" start asking, "How can I afford this?" This small shift in language opens your mind to possibilities and forces you to think like an entrepreneur. This knowledge matters because it provides you with the ultimate gift: options. When you are financially free, you don't work because you have to. You work because you want to. You have the time to spend with your family, the resources to contribute to your community, and the peace of mind that comes from knowing you are in control of your destiny. As you move forward, I leave you with this thought. The world is full of people who are smart, but broke. Don't be one of them. Take the lessons of the rich dad and apply them to your own life. Be bold, stay curious, and remember that wealth is not just about how much money you make, but how much money you keep and how hard that money works for you. The gate to the rat race is open. All you have to do is choose to walk through it. For more book summaries for free, install Zyroverse.